Okay. Hello, everyone. I want to do this random live because I receive information that through several emails that I received yesterday, and through the fact that some people are reaching out because they want to know more about 21 divisions and ancestral altar. And I feel responsible. So I wanted to do this live to go over things that you need to be aware of when you're dealing with how when to know when you're ready to set up an altar and when to truly start developing a relationship, because I don't think that was very clear in the different information that I have passed on, and there is a reason for that. So I want to make sure that I take the time to be here today to give you some information that you need if you're wondering if you're ready, or perhaps you already have an altar that you haven't realized that you didn't do it properly, or that things are happening and you're wondering what's going on, especially if it started after you put up your altar. So I want to make sure that we take the time, and I'm not going to take too long because I want to get right to the point, that we take the time to truly understand the dangers of having a spiritual altar without the proper preparation. A lot of things can happen when you start setting up an altar without understanding the consequences and without doing it properly. So I am not doing this live so that you can come to me to do this for you, because you can find anyone to do this, or you could do it yourself with the proper training. But you do have to take this very seriously, because after yesterday's live, I had a couple of people email me wanting to know how to set up an altar for Anaisa. And that's when I realized people are not really understanding the message that I am trying to pass on when I talk about some of these energies. Um, and what I'm referring to is to the fact that just because I talk to you about a spirit energy, a misterio, a mystery, or an orisha, or whatever energy we're discussing at the moment, doesn't mean that you're going to go and set up an altar for them. To work with those energies, a lot of the time, for example, when I talk about Anaisa and the fact that she represents the divine feminine, and you're having issues with the divine feminine, doesn't mean that you're going to go set up an altar in order for you to tap into that energy, because you can do that simply by meditating and asking for guidance from your spirit team to help you tap into your divine feminine. So I just want that to be clear, because people believe that once we find out an energy is coming to us, that we immediately got to go and set up an altar, and that can be very dangerous. When we set up an altar and we bring things, pictures, paintings, representative items to set up an altar, to please energy, to do things, bring tools that the energy can work with. For example, it could be a machete, it could be a little sword, it could be a mirror, it could be whatever. But whenever you do that, you're bringing tools to the altar and you're adding even more things. And that gets a little complicated, because there's so many dangers that you might not be aware of when you do this. And I'm going to go to describe this in detail so that you can understand exactly what I'm talking about, because some people that set up an altar without the permission and ability to set it up properly, they can be bringing negative entities into their altar, into their houses. You could be going through potential attacks, you could be experiencing apparitions and shadow figures in your home, you could be hearing and seeing things, having a lot of nightmares, or your kids can be having a lot of nightmares, or even your pets can be having physical illnesses, because you're now bringing energies that don't belong in your home. There are a lot of consequences from having entities attack you, or those that are more vulnerable, especially kids or people that have mental challenges already, are very vulnerable to these entities, and they can might see them and feel them, so it becomes like a playground for them. You could be having sleep paralysis, you could be experiencing bad smells randomly in your home, or your kitchen pots might be falling out of nowhere and you hear them but you don't see them falling, or they are actually falling. So there's so many ways that you could start paying attention. You might be getting very angry for no reason, or trying to do things that are negative for no reason. So you have to be very conscious about what's going on in your home with yourself and those in your family, in your immediate environment, to know if your altar is compromised or you did it without permission. So, why this happens though is because when we say, okay, let's say Anais is coming to you, doesn't mean that you're ready to work with her and put up an altar. She has to pick you in a way that you know that it's time to develop a relationship. But before you develop a relationship where you start getting everything, you have to know if it's truly the time. And then you have to get those things properly baptized, properly clean, properly prepared, so that they are there to represent the entity that you got them for. Just because you got something that looks like an Aisa or Saint N, or that looks like Metresili or Papalebag, doesn't mean that that is the entity that resides within that statue, within that figure, within that painting. Because it doesn't mean that that's the case. It just means that that was the intention for whoever did the thing, but also mean that that is really what is residing in there, especially if you just take it from the store and you put it in your table, in your shelf or something, and now you have an altar and you think you have a properly prepared altar, and you don't realize that what you have there is a place where potentially negative entities are residing. So the reason for this, and it needed to be done because I was going to take today just to get off YouTube, but it had to be done because after those emails, I was like, people really need to understand. This is not about bringing in a figure from outside to put it in an altar. And now this is going to resolve your problems. You have to be aware of what the energy is trying to communicate to you. What is the energy trying to give you as a lesson, help you through that lesson in order for you to become a better person, so that you eventually can become a healer if that's your goal. But you cannot just go to a botanica, buy Papa Lekba, put it in your altar, and think that now you have communication with Papa Lekba, because Papa Lekba might not be part of your spirit team. So if he's not part of your spirit team and he hasn't decided to work with you, what you have there is a statue or a painting that can now allow negative entities to reside in. So the spirit team have to give you permission. And when they give you permission, they if they say, okay, it's time, and you have someone guiding you to set up the altar, then you set up the altar and you make sure that you follow the instructions, or that somebody that knows how to do it baptize the energies, or that if you have the ability to baptize, you can meditate and figure out how to baptize with the help of someone that already knows, a priest, priestess, so that you can baptize the energies properly, so that when you put them in your altar, that these energies cannot allow anything dark to reside in it, because now it's properly baptized. Does that make sense? I know that this might be a little complicated for some of you to understand, but what we're seeing is what I saw yesterday, honestly, because normally I don't go to look for this, but the more and more people are emailing, the more I realize that people are just buying something from the store, from a botanica. They go home, they do a spell, they buy the thing, they put it in their altar, and now they start doing spells and not knowing who is really that they're working with. They start feeding those things, drinks and food, without understanding that they might be feeding a negative entity. And I'm going to go over this, is extremely important. Please listen to this. Ascended energies do not need anything to manifest in your life. The only reason why we have those things for those that are priests and priestesses is for different type of work that we have to do. But they don't have to have a painting or an image in order for us to work with them. And just the way that they don't have to have those things, the same thing that can happen with you, exactly the same, that you don't need an image or paintings to work with highly ascended energies, especially if they have given you permission. So you don't have to have 1,000 things in your altar, 100 things, 20 things. Some people that are very, very well known, very powerful healers, 21 division priestesses in Dominican Republic, I have seen them work with only a couple of things. And I want to bring this up to your attention so that you can truly understand everything that we're working with, these energies, with these mysterios, is inside of us. The only reason why we have some of these things is because when we get ready to take our practice to the next level, we do feel the need to have some of those things for our confirmation, because we can service and have them in our heart. We don't have to have those things. Ascended energies, especially the mysterios that I'm referring to in 21 divisions, these are very ascended energies, beings that are pure love consciousness. They vibrate at 100, 140 hertz frequency and higher. They don't need to eat energy from things in order for them to manifest, unlike disembodied energies and dark energies that need to feed from you in order for them to become, to continue to live and to become and have the energy to manifest, because they already have so much energy. That's why some of them don't come in our crown, they don't mount us, because they have so much energy that we can truly, this human body cannot harness that energy properly. So some of them only communicate telepathically. So if those energies are so highly ascended and have such a high frequency, they don't need to eat and drink things from us. We only do it. Some of those things we do it when we're ready to work with them, so that they can do work. We can do work through them, right? So when we get ready to work with other people, clients, now we prepare them certain things so that they can do their jobs, but they don't need those things really to be able to communicate with us and do things with us. Now, disembodied energies and dark energies, they need energy. And that's why a lot of the altars that you see can be very, you think that oh my goodness, the coffee's gone so quickly. And you don't realize it wasn't the energy that you put it for, it's somebody else, because the altar wasn't properly prepared. You might be working with energies that are not part of your spirit team. So I'm bringing you this today because I want you to be very careful. Whenever I put any videos, any information about any specific spirit guide, I'm giving you the essence so that you can understand these energies are very much heavily elevated, very highly ascended. They bring a lot of wisdom and knowledge, and they bring us back to us. What do they represent within us? But I'm not saying that you need to go and worship them to the point that you get things in order for you to create this massive altar, because you think that that's going to give you give you even more power. You got to be very careful with this. You could be dealing with negative entities that you are helping to reside, to live in your home, causing you a lot of issues and fears and triggers and negative emotions, and you might not know it's coming from your own altar. So you have to be extremely wise about how you prepare your altar. It's a sacred place where you actually are opening portals when you're working in this altar. Therefore, you have to treat it as such. You cannot just have a million things in that altar and think that everything is properly baptized, prepared, because probably you're not doing it right. If you have that many things, something, especially if you're not a priest and priestess and you're just starting your path in any spirituality and you have an altar for whoever, it might be an Indian from India, or it might be, I don't know, the natives, it might be whatever. The point is you have to make sure that those things are properly consecrated in a way so that they're properly um, baptized so that they can perform the function that you need them to perform to bring you guidance and wisdom. But you don't need those things in order for you to get those things, because you can just meditate and get those things, right? So remember in the video of the astral planes and the dream stages, we talked about the different disembodied energies and the frequency that they reside in, and we talked about how the very dark energies reside below 7 hertz, and then we have the disembodied energies that reside between 7 and 19 and so on. Those are the energies that are going to love those altars that are not um properly baptized. I'm looking for another word so that you can understand what I'm saying, but I'm going to keep saying baptized so that hopefully you understand me. Because when they're properly consecrated, those energies cannot reside in those things. But if you don't do it right, those energies can come and become the owner of those things. So now, in order for you to get rid of them, you gotta perform a whole ritual to get. You might have to take down the whole altar in order to start again fresh. So you see what I'm saying? You have to be very conscious. These embodied energies are very low frequency, and they need to eat from food, drinks, blood, and your own human energy in order for them to manifest themselves and to continue to assist and experience things, human experience, through you or through those in your house, kids, even pets, even elders, even your husband, wife, whoever, and yourself. That's why sometimes you might be having a lot of nightmares and you don't know. So remember, high frequency energy beings do not require much from you when you start working with them. They require you to improve. They require you, you might want to put flowers. Flowers have very high frequency, so you might want to put flowers and water, very high frequency things, right? You could light a candle. But if you go crazy, you could be creating a lot of problem, because the flowers, when they wilt away, you put them away, you put them in the trash. The water you replace often, the candle eventually ends. So eventually that energy is gone, right? And those are high frequency energies. So things will not be able to take hold of that. But when you have something that is I don't know, let's say something like this, and this is going to represent the spirit for you, and it has the shape and everything, and now this is supposed to be your elegua, and now you put it in your altar, and a negative energy might come through and become the owner of this. So every time you think you put in a service for this elegua, you might be serving somebody else. So you have to be very conscious. The negative energies, disembodied energies, they reside in low frequency, while the highly elevated energies reside in 100, 140 plus to 1,000 hertz. They don't need you. They're already very highly elevated. But the disembodied energies require food, drinks, things, and require human energy in order for them to continue to assist. So you have to be very, I hope I'm getting to the point that you have to be very careful, because I think a lot of people don't understand what I'm saying. And I want you to understand these things, these spirits, they know they're always around us. You might not see them, but they're always around us. So they know how to play with our mind, they're obsessor spirits. We call them obsessor spirits. And because they're obsessor spirits, they know how obsession works. And the moment that you start, okay, somebody came to me, I'm gonna do and get this and get that and get this. They see your obsession, so they're gonna play with you and they're gonna trigger you in a way that you're always going to feel like you need more things, because that's where they need that's what they need for you in order for them to continue to exist from you. Does that make sense? I want, please let me know if that makes sense, because I want to make sure that I'm communicating to you what I'm supposed to communicate, so that you understand what I'm trying to tell you. Sometimes these energies, you know we want to work with this and that, and Metresili, and this and Grambois and this, and we don't realize we need to start. The main altar that you need to set up before anybody else is your ancestral altar. And even with that, there are restrictions and conditions and requirements that you have to know, because if you set it up wrong, you could be messing up energies and doing this favor to your um, ancestors. You got to remember, sometimes you bring in your spirit team, especially if they're part of your ancestor lineage, you might have non-blood related and blood related ancestors that you need to work with before you start working with the 21 divisions, or any voodoo or any orisha or anything like that, because you have to start with your ancestral line. So with the ancestor, it's easy: candle, water, flowers, and then sometimes if they like coffee, you put coffee. If they didn't like coffee, you're not going to put coffee. If they like wine, you might want to put some wine, but you're not going to put a lot of wine all the time, because you don't want those energies to become dependent. Not dependent. The ancestors, they are going through their purification process. You're not going to ask them to do things for you, so you don't have to overdo it. You might serve them something that they like. If they like a specific type of thing, you might do it, and do it once a month or something like that, or once a week. But you're not going to go crazy, because you're not going to ask your ancestors to help you do things. Besides giving you guidance, you shouldn't be asking them to get you a job, to fix your relationship, to fix your kids, to fix your enemies, to take care of your enemies, to do this, to protect you from what's going on out in the street, because they're going through the process. You gotta respect that. And because they're going through the process, you cannot be demanding them to do things for you, because you may be doing them a disfavor. If you're always asking and they cannot help you, how do you think they're going to feel? Just like a mother that wants, or a father that wants to take care of their kids, but their kids is asking them for $2,000 bicycle, and all we can afford is $100. How do we feel when that happens? How do you feel when somebody asks you to do something and you cannot do it for them? You don't feel good, right? Same thing is going to happen with the ancestors that are in another round, and they're seeing everything that is happening. Potentially they might be going through their purification process, so they might have no access to you, but your prayers always get through. That's why we always do prayers, conversations with those energies, the ancestors that have the highest intention for us. But there, something that a lot of people don't understand is that even in the ancestor altars, we have to be very careful with who we put next to each other. For example, if your ancestors, I don't know, let's assume that they're, for the sake of this conversation, that they're Dominican. And Dominicans have a little issue with the Haitians, because they are a little, they can be a little racist. Some of the Dominicans, we can be a little racist. It's not right, but it happens, right? So if I have an ancestor that is Haitian and another one that is Dominican that was a little racist, I'm not going to put them together, right? Because then that's going to create conflict. They might evolve over that after they go through their purification process. But while they're here in this plane and you're keeping them in this plane with the paintings and service, you might need to keep them separated. But to know some of these things, you got to make sure that you consult someone that can help you figure this out. Some ancestors, for example, in 21 divisions, we put them on the table, right? Some people in another practice will put them on the floor. So there are different things. And if you put some ancestors on the floor and they're not supposed to be on the floor, That's a very big problem. And vice versa. If you put them on the table, but they're not supposed to be on the table, that's a problem. So you have to know that. Remember, I always say the spirits, when they transition, what they like and didn't like in this round goes over to the spirit realm. So you have to know what did they like. Because if they didn't like, let's say they didn't like red wine, but you put red wine, right? They're not going to appreciate that, right? But if they like coffee and you put coffee, they're going to appreciate that. So, but the same thing with their characteristics and personality. Let's say you have an ancestor that was very dangerous here. I wouldn't put that ancestor with the same ancestors that are going through the process, because they might not be at the same phase where these people here that knew this ancestor created issues and they didn't like this person, and now I'm going to put them together. That's a problem. So you have to know who were these people in this reality in order for you to get a better idea how to serve them while they're in the spirit dimension. So you start with water, flowers, and a candle. Simple. Before you graduate to working with the mysterios or the spirit guides that you have no idea if they're 100% in your spirit team or no. Because if they're not in your spirit team and you start working with them, you can be creating so many issues for yourself that can last years for you to resolve. I'm serious about that. But also, if they haven't given you permission, you might know you might think that you're working with Metresili, but you're not working with Metresili. It's a fake, but somehow you think it's real. And they know how to trick you. These entities know how to trick you. So you got to be very careful. Okay. I just wanted to give this warning because a lot of people don't understand this. And I really had to make sure that I pass the message, because the least I want to make sure that this is clear. Any information that I provide to you, I always ask you to meditate. Why do I ask you to meditate? To get your own confirmations. It's for a reason. When I ask you to meditate, I'm telling you, this is my truth. Your truth may be different. You know, some people say never ever put the altar in your bedroom. That can cause so many issues. You cannot be naked in front of these energies and so on, right? Especially if you don't know what you have in there. But if that's the only place, let's say you're renting a room and that's the only place that you have available, right? Then you have to figure out how do you do it if your heart is telling you it's time for you to do this. So your truth might be that you need to set up your altar in your bedroom because that's the only place that you have available. But then you're going to set boundaries, right? And you got to learn how to set boundaries, even with the energies, because at the end of the day, you're the one in control. At the end of the day, this is your life, this is your journey. How are you going to work with these energies? The mysterious have to tell you, you are in, yes, I am in your cuadro espiritual, I'm part of your spirit team. But then it is up to you to decide how do you really develop this relationship, because if you don't take it any further, those energies eventually will just be gone. They don't need to be around you if you don't want to acknowledge their presence or if you're not ready for them, right? So you have to, at the same time, I'm telling you all of this, I'm letting you know this is your journey, this is your truth. And because this is your truth and this is a free will planet, I'm letting you also know you need to decide how you're going to develop this relationship, sacred relationship, where you establish a connection with these energies after they agree to work with you, and you guide the journey at the same time. Because how do you guide it? I'm going to tell you how you guide it. Are you meditating? Are you contemplating? Are you thinking? Are you going through your triggers? Are you really doing the work? Because if you know you're not doing anything, and I don't want to curse because I almost did right now, but I get so passionate about this because a lot of people don't understand. Your priest and priestess, godmother, grandfather, godfather cannot do it for you. You have to be the one in control of your journey. So you have to be responsible. So Metresili comes to you. Oh, great. That's a beautiful thing. Doesn't mean that you're ready to put an altar for her. Does not mean that you're ready to put an altar for her. You got to develop a relationship. Eventually, if you don't know for sure, you see someone that can confirm to you she is in your spirit team. And then when you're ready to set up the altar, you learn to baptize the pictures or the statues or whatever you're using to represent her in your altar. But I like to say, at the end of the day, the biggest altar that we have is our heart. Because when we understand that these energies are inside of us and that they come to teach us things about who we are, that there is no better altar than that. Let me just be honest with you. I don't care if, I don't care. I don't care. There is no better altar than your heart, than your body as a temple to determine how you work with these energies, to determine, because you could have a million things in your altar and that altar may have no power. It could be the opposite. It might be doing a lot of dangerous thing to you and your family and whoever comes to you, because your altar is completely messed up, because your heart is not completely open, and you're not truly understanding. You just have a bunch of things, physical objects. You It doesn't mean just because you have a lot of things in the altar that has any power. Remember, the altar is a portal, is a power place where you can invoke and you can do work, healing work, to heal, receive messages, and heal people, whether it is yourself, your family, and others. It's a place for you to tap into your true divinity. So it's not a place just to have a million things and to feed and to put food and drinks. Okay. I just want that to be clear. I'm gonna read some of the messages, and I think we'll end it there, because I just wanted to give you the message of how serious it is to build an altar that is not a proper consecrated baptized altar can cause a lot of challenges. I'm talking about severe challenges, from the very little ones to the very big ones, where kids might be getting sick, where people might be getting into accidents, where people are always fighting and arguing, where you're always having a lot of self doubts, or maybe over drinking or doing things, because it's not you, it's the energies that are in that altar that have now occupied your home. Okay, that's what I'm saying. So I'm not going to preach anymore about that, because I think I got a message. Hopefully, I got the message across. Let's see if there are any questions. I'm just going to go over the statements and questions. Gratitude for being here. Information truly appreciated. You're welcome. Yes, Anaya says perfect sense. I myself, I'm still learning how to start over more than once. Thank goodness I didn't do too much through, because I always been cautious. But I can only imagine those who have done more. Yeah, there are people that go a little crazy. Different lineages believe different things, though. When I was learning from traditional African lineage, they say otherwise. I'm not sure what you're referring to, Anaya. Can you please put it in the comments so I can understand? Yes, the lineage. Well, exactly. The lineage is going to determine how you work with some energies and how you do not work with some energies. But we have to also remember, I'm talking about here about 21 division specifically. Okay, so I'm referring to the fact that some people might be trying to work with an energy that they don't have approval to work with the energy, and they go to the botanica, they get something, And now they're thinking that they're working with an energy, that they're not working with that energy, because that energy is not even part of the spirit team. So they don't have permission to work with that energy. And second of all, they didn't properly consecrate that statue or painting or whatever they got, object, in order for that object to properly have the energy representation of that mysterio. So I'm not referring to everybody. I want that to be clear, because I'm referring to 21 division specifically, and how to make sure that um, that if you're in another practice, you might be having completely different situations where, okay, I go get Archangel Michael, and that's Archangel Michael, and that's it, right? That's it. But if you don't know how to read energy, you don't know if there is something else there in that Archangel Michael statue. So even if it is in another practice, you still have to do things to make sure, because even in Santeria Osha, right? In Ifa, we go through prayers and ceremonies to make sure that those things are properly consecrated, like whether it is the Osum, Lebag, the Guerreros, right? The warriors, whoever's Yemaya, Olokun, anything that we do has to go through a whole ceremony. Where in 21 divisions, some people, some elders say, you get the thing, you make sure that your elders baptize them with the prayers. It's not as a long ceremony like in some other practices like Osha, but there is some type of ceremony, prayers, invocations, songs, water, herbs, and then we baptize the thing, the object, before we put it in the altar. So there is a ritual. It just might not be 3 days ritual, but there is still a ritual to be done. Let's see what else. I learned that she was on my spirit. I'm not sure, Rose. You said I learned Eileen, or I learned she was on my spirit team. Put her altar up and had to remove it. I'm not sure who you're referring to, which energy. I was told I was okay to work with Saint Martha and Maître Silifrera. Okay. And Anaya says, like in African lineage, say that you go to the ancestors first to do for you and work for you. Yes, there is like, even in Palo and Santeria, the ancestors do a lot of work for us. But those ancestors, you gotta know which ancestors, because not all the ancestors are supposed to be doing work for you. Some of them are going through the process of healing so that they can do work for you, just like in 21 divisions. But before they get to the work, they have to let you know they're ready to do the work. First, you pray, you send them healing, you send them love. They go through the process, and then they can come and work with you. That's how I understand it. Might be different for somebody else that works 21 divisions. I'm not saying it's like that for everybody that works 21 divisions, but I know that whenever an energy, an ancestor, whether it is blood or non-blood related, they go through the purification process first before they can come and start working for you like your assistant, because that's what they're doing. They're assisting you with things. So they still have to go through the process, and if they don't, um what you're doing is that you're delaying them. So you know and there is some um like Congo practices and stuff like that, where the ancestors are the ones, the mainly, that we work with. We don't work with the mysterios, right? We work with the ancestors and the energies, some energies that that represent, similar to the orishas, but not the orishas, obviously. But it's a lot of energy working with the muertos, with the energies that are in the astral dimension. So yes, those are different, but they in those areas, they have different rules of who get to do what, so that we work in sync with the energy and we're not delaying them for any reason. I didn't understand that. No matter what lineage they all said, they saying in that aspect about the image and the objects. I think I'm not sure. Oh, okay. I think I skip a few one. It says in 21 divisions satanismo is different. But one thing that holds true across the board, images and statues must be consecrated, blessed, baptized. Yes. Oh, Rose says she had to remove Ursula Freda. I guess she wasn't part of your spirit team, but then you said that you have Ursula and Martha. So I think I'm a little confused. Um, okay. Okay, so I think I'm gonna leave it here. I hope I didn't confuse anyone. You do have to follow. That's why you have to see people that are in whatever practice you are practicing that know what they're doing so that they can guide you, because the way that we work with the ancestors is different than the way that we work with the ancestors in Santeria and Palo and other and even in Spiritismo. There are some differences. So even the way that we set up the altar is different. Even the way that we set up, obviously the prayers are going to be different, but the way that we work with them are different. So I think you have to be wise enough to know when to listen and listen to the people that already have knowledge in those areas, and also to learn to meditate, because you can get a lot of these answers if you really set up a practice where you can meditate yourself to get a lot of these answers. But if you don't know how to do that, you're going to be very confused, especially if you're getting to the point where you're now interested in 21 Division, Spiritismo, Palo Cruzado, Blended Spiritismo, Santeria, and now you have so much information coming from different places that you don't know. Oh my God. Well, yeah, because you're missing a lot of things. Before you start missing all of those things, you really have to pick your one thing that you're going to do really well before you start opening yourself to the other things, because otherwise you're going to get so confused. It can drive you crazy. I'm serious when I say that. I went through that. I wanted to know everything at the same time. And I was told, girl, from spirit, girl, you got to really pick one thing and go with it and really study that for many, many years before you start opening yourself to other things. Because the moment you start blending everything, your mind becomes like that too. And now you don't know, okay, why do that for this energy here, but then in the other, and you cannot have 20 altars. To properly work with an altar, you have to spend time there every single day. Every single day, you should be looking at it, you should be paying attention to it, you should be doing things, contemplating, meditating in front of it, paying attention to what happens. If you have 3 altars and you're just beginning, how in the you're not going to be able to handle it. You're not going to do a good job in any of those 3 altars, and you end up dividing your energy, spreading your energy in multiple things to the point that it can truly become insanity. So you do have to pick one thing first, and then once you kind of master that, then you go into the next one. You master that one, now you're going to the next. I'm not saying that you pick one thing only and that's it for the rest of your life. I'm saying be strategic with how you split your energy to learn certain things so that you can progress. Because I don't think we have to stay in one thing forever. That's not what I'm saying. And I know a lot of people are much more open to that and looking for consciousness in everything. So to stay in one thing doesn't mean that to stay in one thing initially doesn't mean that you're gonna stay in that forever in a way that you're only gonna be close to that one thing forever. But once you have a base, a foundation, then you can progress as the years go by, so that within 10, 20 years you might have a lot of knowledge from different places, but you always have one base that you always come back to, because otherwise you can get crazy. It can really, I had to pick one base because it was getting to the point that I was navigating through the different situations and truly getting out of hand. So you do have to be wise enough to know, okay, this is my base. This is my base, and this is what I do every day, no matter what. And then the other things are for me to expand my awareness. My base is 21 divisions, and to expand my awareness, I study other things. But my base is 21 division, and that's my home. That's where I know anything can happen, and this is where I come back to. And I can expand myself and read different things. I can read from Buddha and this and that, but doesn't mean that my base changes. My base can only get better because of that, but it will not be removed, if that makes any sense. Okay, so I think I'm gonna leave it here. Not sure if I should go over any other comments. But I think I'll leave it here and I'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.